Good morning, I'm Meg Pancoast, and this is my introduction video. Just a little bit about me and my educational background. I graduated from Millersville University back in 2015 with my BSc in middle level education and a concentration in science. Since graduating, I have worked at several different schools, including 6th grade at Helen Thaxton Charter School in York, K-12 aquatics at Northern High School in Dillsburg, 6th and 8th grade science at Allen Middle School in Camp Hill in the West Shore School District, and I'm currently teaching 5th and 6th grade at Marshall Math Science Academy in Harrisburg School District. For the last 3 summers, I've taught Discovery Camp at the Franklin Institute in Philadelphia, teaching inquiry-based STEAM education to 6th to 9th graders. A little bit about my family. I grew up in Horsham, Pennsylvania, a suburb of Philadelphia. I have 2 younger siblings, Stephen, who's 23, and Liberty, who's 13, and we have a Springer Spaniel named Ollivander. Yes, after the Harry Potter character. We call Molly. Since graduating college, I moved away from home, and I moved out to central Pennsylvania, and have kind of hopped around different places, living in York for a little while, then living in Mechanicsburg. I currently live in Mechanicsburg, Pennsylvania, with my 2 wonderful roommates, who are my best friends, Rob and Phil. Hobbies for me. In my senior year at Millersville, I decided to, with a group of 5 female students, to go out dancing one night, and it kind of just stuck with me. I've now been swing dancing for about 3.5 years, nearing 4, and I'm absolutely in love with it. I occasionally teach with the internationally acclaimed dancer Carla LaRue-Heine, and dance East Coast swing, Lindy Hop, blues, Charleston, a little bit of West Coast swing, and collegiate shag. I've always loved music. I've been to over 200 concerts in my life, mostly rock. I play about 5 instruments: guitar, mandolin, ukulele, drums, and flute. And last year I choreographed our middle school production of Hairspray Jr. For me, performance has always been a very important part of my life. I love putting on a performance and putting on a performer's hat. Like I said before, I love choreographing, but I also love performing in choreography. If you feel interested later, there's 2 videos that are attached. One right here that was more recently, this was about 2 weeks ago, and one down here that was from 2 years ago and was my very first performance. But outside of Lindy Hop, I also fire perform. As you can see in this picture, I have a flaming yo-yo that I'm about to catch. I couldn't get a video uploaded of that one, sadly. Currently, I'm back at Millersville for my master's program in STEM assessment, curriculum, and teaching. Science education has always been an absolute passion of mine, and I'm incredibly enthusiastic about it. I have experience using Google Suites for online planning and instruction, but teach at a brick or mortar school. So I'm hoping with this class to learn a little bit more about how to best incorporate online education and kind of making it more of a blended style of learning. Which of the challenges of teaching online outlined by Archambault are the ones that you want to learn more about? For me, one of the things I want to know most about is about the time commitments. In the article, it stated that time commitments are one of the most challenging parts of being an online educator. But for me as a teacher, I know it takes me an incredibly long time to grade all the assignments that come in from students. To lessen my load for what I have to do with the students, there are times that I will utilize online data collection tools like Google Forms. This is a screenshot of the Google Forms that I used with my students. You can see it easily organizes the data that was collected and tells me how many students wrote each answer and what percentage of students got each of the answer. This greatly takes down the time it takes to analyze the data and organizes the information already for me so that I can easily tell what students know and what they need more help with. Find it surprising reading this that so many teachers stated that time commitments were more challenging than in a traditional classroom when I use these resources to help me get things done faster. I'm curious that if there's a structured curriculum, like they were stating in the article was another one of the challenges, not being able to change the material that they have. what is the actual time-consuming part of the online instruction that makes it more consuming than face-to-face instruction? Is it the talking to the parents? Is it the communication with the students? Is it the fact that typing takes longer than speaking? Is it the lesson planning? I'm not exactly sure what it would be, so that's what I'm most curious about. Okay, in the YouTube video, the statement is made about good teaching is good teaching, whether online or in a brick and mortar. In what ways does this make sense to you, and in what ways is this an overgeneralization? To me, honestly, as I was watching the video, I was very surprised to see in how many ways online education is very similar to classroom education. These standards that teachers are held to with online education and the standards to which classroom teachers in a face-to-face brick-and-mortar school are very similar to one another. I drew the connection between the online standards and the Danielson framework, for which Pennsylvania teachers are often evaluated. Planning and preparation. Teachers of online classrooms need to plan and prep and make sure that their materials are appropriately done for the age of students that they're teaching. Same goes for classroom teachers. You have to establish a classroom environment. You need to set your netiquette rules. You need to make sure students are communicating with one another and learning how to communicate in these online classes. Professional responsibilities. You have to be a professional. You have to contact parents. You need to create a learning team for the students and make sure that everyone's on the same page. For instruction, you need to make sure that you're varying the teaching methods and making it more individualized for the students. Everything that I read and watched in that video made sense to what I am evaluated as a teacher. Honestly, I don't think there is much of an overgeneralization in this statement. I think that good teaching is good teaching, and that teachers on online schools and teachers in brick-and-mortar schools are evaluated very similarly to one another. Archambault states that by writing that many teachers feel that they were born to teach, and yet, when they envisioned teaching, it was not in an online environment. Parker Palmer writes extensively about listening to our own inner voice and finding and following the teacher within. What are your hopes for online teaching, and what qualities do you have that you really want to share with your students? One of my biggest fears, and ultimately why I chose to work in a brick-and-mortar school, is the fear that as an educator, one of my personal qualities is that I want to come across to my students is my enthusiasm for my content. I've always been incredibly passionate about science and science education, and I've always had a fear that solely online classes, students would miss that important part of my identity. In the classroom, I'm also often seen excitedly flitting around my room, and at any time I explain concepts to my students with enthusiasm that is electric and causes students to ask countless other questions about my topic on hand. My hopes for this class are to learn how to counteract the transactional distance with my students and to help keep the students engaged in learning while allowing my own teacher within to shine. Rice writes about different approaches to online teaching, guide on the side, etc. How would you respond? To me, the most important point that she was attempting to get across to her students is the fact that the teacher of an online class needs to be present. They cannot be the kind of person that sets up a class and leaves it to sit. As a guide from the side, it is a job of a teacher to become an active participant in the learning community and to help facilitate positive, productive, and meaningful discussions about each topic the students are studying so that students are processing and learning communication skills. From reading this chapter, I am more reassured that online education is still fostering the 21st century communication skills that students need to succeed in life after school. As a teacher of an online class needs to be organized and plan ahead in their lessons, while at the same time having the flexibility to individualize learning for each student in their class. In many ways, being a teacher of an online class is similar to being an educator in a brick-and-mortar school. The last question was my absolute favorite. What advertised qualities for online schools fit with the INACOL standards? As I was watching these videos, I kind of had to laugh because in a lot of the videos, it seemed like they were more trying to reassure families of stereotypes that surround online schools than they were really emphasizing what makes them great. In the commercials that were advertising for online public schools, the three most consistent qualities that they were pushing was individualized instruction for students, one-on-one interaction with teachers, and creating online communities for learners. Each of these qualities are heavily embedded in the national standards and for quality teachers set out by the International Association for K-12 Online Learning. When I personally think of online education, I think about individualized instruction first and foremost. Creating lesson plans for each student and gearing the course towards what the student needs is one of the most appealing characteristics of receiving an online education. Students who may need additional support or varied learning styles would be helped through the utilization of their own course of study within that class. This is seen throughout the entirety of the INACOL standards. In Standard A, the second half states that a teacher must be able to create learning experiences to enable student success. In this environment, student success is variable from student to student, depending on their needs, and the teacher needs to be adept at tailoring their teaching to those students. Standard F adds to this by saying that teachers of an online classroom must be cognizant of the diversity of their students and academic needs and incorporate accommodations into the online environment, which adds to Rice's suggestion that students should acknowledge the diversity of students and the background interests. In any commercial I've ever watched advertising cyber schools, they discuss how students and teachers are easily connected to one another, and there is a great amount of interaction between the teachers and students in the class. In Standard D, it states that the online teacher promotes student success through clear expectations, prompt responses, and regular feedback. In our book, Making the Move On to Online Learning, Rice states, logistically, you may find it impossible to respond to every student in every discussion forum, but while managing responses, be sure that you respond to all participants equally with both quality and volume, so that students feel welcomed, heard, and involved in classroom learning. In these classes, it is imperative that teachers manage their time effectively and communicate, whether it is through video conferencing, email, phone calls, or contributing to class discussion, and provide feedback to each student to help them foster a learning community. Creating an online community of learners is incredibly important to having a successful online cyber school. In Standard C, it states that teachers in an online classroom must create plans, design, and incorporate strategies to encourage active learning, application, interaction, participation, and collaboration in an online environment. In Rice's book, she states that the first week of an online class should be spent contacting parents, guardians, advisors, or other members of the student's learning team, setting up guidelines for your online class, ensuring all students have materials and connection to internet, and troubleshooting any problems that may arise. Using this week of class to help students interact will help build a strong learning community and teach students how to effectively communicate using etiquette that you establish in your classroom. It also will help students to feel like they're part of something larger, part of a global community. I thank you for taking the time to watch this video. I'm sorry I'm a little bit nasally, I'm a little bit sick right now, but I'm looking forward to getting to know everyone in this class and to learning more about online schools. Thank you.